Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Beers, a podcast brought to you by SportsKhabri. I have with me Shwetaabh, Ali, and Anshuman. The reason I've switched roles today with Shwetaabh is because the topic is Manchester United. Shwetaabh couldn't sit on the fence and he couldn't keep asking these questions and taking a few himself. So today I take his role and I'm here to ask some pressing questions to these Manchester United fans. Guys, off of that Manchester derby, how are you feeling? How is the mood right now? Ali?
Yeah, the mood. I was distorted at the in during the first half, but got some sort of consolation in the second half. Even though I even before the match I expected we will lose, but I never ever thought that they'll come up with such a disastrous performance to start with. So all in all, I'm pretty much down. So having a bad week because of that.
Shweta, was that Martial brace any much of a positive, or do you see the performance as a whole and you're like, just wasn't good enough on the day?
It is just one of those games, when you're 4-0 down at halftime, you know that the opposing team also lets the pedal off, and that is what we're hoping that, with the way City were playing, it could have easily been 9-0, 10-0. But that brace, maybe it does good for Marshall for the coming games, because he hasn't had the kind of season we hoped that he would have after the preseason. So I hope that it is good for Marshall as a team, for the team as a whole. I don't think it made a huge difference. They should be ashamed of the performance. They should be distraught. They should be looking within themselves that where they went wrong and what things to be corrected. And I'm sure that for the last 3-4 months, whatever we have learned of Ten Hag, I don't think these three goals are any consolation for him. Just to make it a little lighter, maybe I would have said that, we won the second half and I don't know what happened in the first half. But that's not how football works. And I don't think those three goals are any consolation, except for maybe it does good for Martial's confidence.
Anshuman, do you think City did indeed take the pedal off, the foot off the pedal, or do you think Manchester United brought in something to the game in the second half?
I think it was a bit of both because if you just look at the way that City have been playing throughout the season, I at least find that they are leaking goals a bit more than they were over the couple of seasons before. So defensively, they are a bit prone, and they became even more prone once Kyle Walker went off the pitch and Joao Cancelo went on the right. So, and United, this could have been a different result for United because the approach that they went with isn't something that United haven't done before. And it's just that City took a very early chance and then they capitalized on the back of it quite comprehensively. But yeah, I think that City did exactly put their foot off the gas. It's just that Manchester United came back into the game, and because they didn't really have anything to lose, the refreshing thing for me was they didn't give up either. Because last season we had these kind of results where Liverpool were beating Manchester United 5-0, and they would put the foot off the gas, and United would also not try either. Contrasting to that, at least in this game, once the subs came off the bench, they at least tried. The fact that we conceded 6 goals is obviously very embarrassing, but the fact that City also conceded three is something that Pep would be worried about, and it's something that, as far as limited consolations go, it's something we need to take as a positive because Martial coming back of an injury and scoring a brace is also important in the long term, if not in the context of the match.
Anshuman, quickly, you touched upon the game. Let's just touch upon the first half of the game. Where do you think the game was lost for United in the first half?
The moment they conceded the first goal, because I got the moment we started off the game, I understood what they were trying to do. Because the wide forwards, I did not expect Ten Hag to change the lineup, even though I would have changed it at least. But it's okay. It was a very expected lineup from United, and the way this started off, because on the right you had Anthony, on the left you had Sancho, and they were playing quite narrow. And the idea was that if they occupied the half spaces, they could stop the fullbacks from making those interchanging runs. Most importantly, Kyle Walker and Joao Cancelo. And to a certain degree, they did succeed. And in the defensive pivot, you had both McTominay and Christian Eriksen playing a bit of a wider pivot than usual, which is again something that Solskjaer's United 2 seasons ago did when we won 2-0. Only that time, the difference was that we got a penalty in the first game in the first minute, and we converted it, and we had the advantage. City kept coming through, then we scored another on the counter. So game states plays a lot of important role here. In that case, United had got in early. They got a chance. They capitalized. In this game, Ten Hag in the post-match press conference pointed out that there were a few chances that had we taken could have resulted in the game going in a different direction, but we didn't take that. And our pressing in the beginning was not very aggressive, which I think can be chalked on to the fact that okay, United are coming into this game after almost a month, so that intensity from a club perspective is maybe not there. Or you can find a lot of reasons here. I don't think it was more of anything that can be considered a calamity, because when you have City who are going to play a certain way and United who are going to set up in a very pragmatic way and may take advantage of whatever spaces City is leaving behind, then it's very likely that City will end up with more high quality chances. The United will get very low, very less frequent high quality chances. So United did not take them. Were the little chances they had, City took it. They took the lead inside 8 minutes, and by the time 35 minutes, they were 4-0 up. And a lot of credit for that goes to Erling Haaland, who's only demonstrating what happens when a very high scoring, highly creative City side finally has a focal point. So that City took advantage in a game that on another day they couldn't have, and we also have an example in which they were not able to against United. But in this instance, they were able to, and once they ran through United, and after that 4-0 lead, I don't think United realistically felt that they had anything left in the game. I like the fact that despite that the consolation goals came in, and the fact that in the second half we effectively won 3-2. It does, like Shwetaabh said, it doesn't really matter in football in the longer context. But these are the finer margins that you look for when you have suffered a defeat of this kind.
Yeah, Shweta, in that first half, do you feel like you want to see your Manchester United side be a little more aggressive, take the game to City rather than sitting back and being a little passive?
Of course, of course. I mean, when we lost to Brentford 4-0, the kind of response that we saw against Liverpool was what we expect a United team to do, you know. That day, they just took the game to Liverpool. They were aggressive. It's not like they had a lot of possession. It's not like they disrupted Liverpool's game, but there was just more fight. There was more aggression. There was more intent that day. And everything said and done, I think after that, Ten Hag did come across a formula where at least tactically, even if the United team had less ball, less possession, which Ten Hag does not like. We all know that Ten Hag likes to play with more of the ball, but with this United side, with the limitations that they have right now, we saw that he's forming a team. There's something coming alive, and it just completely went missing against City, you know, and that is something that one just fails to understand, that how did that fight, that intent, that aggressiveness, because it's the same team, you know. Maybe this is one thing I was just thinking of, that they didn't look like the team which has won 4 matches in a row, you know, with so much surety, and that the performances were convincing. They could have lost one of those games. I'm not saying that they were at the best and they had cracked a formula, but there was still something that you could see which has changed, and that just completely went missing against the City game. Probably it was the long break between the two games, you know. I think the last league game that United had played was somewhere in the first week of October, which was against sorry, September, which was against Arsenal. And then there was a gap of, I think, more than 24, 25 days before the City game, and that's a huge game. Sorry, that's a huge difference for a team which is still trying to figure out their best team, their best formation, their best tactics. So I think that could be one of the reason. Otherwise, we were seeing some kind of progress happening again under Ten Hag. So yeah, to with that, to answer your question, I think with this, even with this United team, we have seen what they are capable of on their day, when they play aggressively, when they play with intent, and they don't go missing. I mean, this is a performance which we are getting used to before the Ten Hag had changed things. That once you concede one goal, once suddenly you see some kind of difficulty happening, you go missing. Players start to go missing. You know, this was happening against under Solskjaer, under Ragnick, but we hadn't seen that in the previous 4 games. So I think they fell back into some bad habits. Maybe the international break wasn't as good for United as it was for the other teams. So yeah, I think that could be one of the big factors why the fight went missing.
Right. Quickly, Ali, let's just talk about possible changes that could have been made at halftime. I mean, of course, you're 4-0 down, you're struggling. There's probably nothing left in the game. But who do you look to on your bench and say, you know what, come on, get into the game, give me something, give me some energy, give me some fight, show some desire, probably get a goal. Who's that person that you look to on your bench and say, you know what, you're the guy I'm going to throw on?
That person is there, but he's not no more a bigger goal threat or someone who can change the match right now. That is Cristiano Ronaldo. So we didn't have too much on the bench, to be honest. So that's where we lacked. But what I thought is, when we this team are not strong enough to recover a 1-0 deficit in the first half. They go down. They mentally struggle when they go down. So I never expect them to go give a fight or win a match from 4-0 at 4-0 against City. So what I would think about, what I think is, as Anshuman pointed out, our wingers were playing very much inverted kind of thing, and off the ball they were very narrow. And against Liverpool, when we pick up that match, although we took the game to Liverpool, but the way we did that was showing the desire and putting in tackles and blocking all the balls. Otherwise, Liverpool would have also scored three or four goals. They had too many chances. But this time around, we didn't do that. And the Guardiola very cleverly utilized the way our winger were playing off the ball, and he doubled up on both the flanks. When Grealish and Bernardo Silva on the left, they, either one of them were always in the half spaces, and they one is overlapping all the time, and they were fizzing in crosses from there. Then all the time they were making triangles on the wings, both the wings with their full backs, and De Bruyne floating as the right midfielder. Lots of times they used those half spaces which were there very well. And one more fault what I saw was McTominay was playing as a number 8. He was pretty advanced, and Eriksen was playing as the number 6, as a deep line playmaker. But all his life he was a cam. We cannot expect him to defend. And Silva particularly, and De Bruyne, they used Eriksen as a shield, and they always made some positional changes and runs in his blind spots. So I think two or three goals were there which City got because of Eriksen not tracking the runs. So you have those players in Grealish, Silva, Foden, De Bruyne on the wings, Cancelo fizzing in crosses into the box, where they have a monster in Haaland who will score a 0.25 chance also easily. So I think they cleverly outplayed us in the first half.
Uh, Anshuman, Ali just pointed out as to how he doesn't see Ronaldo as much of a threat when United are particularly down. If that is the case, do you see a place for Ronaldo in this Manchester United side?
Not at the moment, no. And sadly, Cristiano Ronaldo only has himself to blame, because what we are seeing with Cristiano right now is a lot of what we saw with Lionel Messi last season at the start. There are a lot of similarities insofar as both of them are considered generational talents, one of the best of all times, if not the best. Both of them did not have a proper preseason last season because Messi was had taken some time off after his Copa America win, and Ronaldo at the start of the preseason he took some leave, some time off for familial reasons, which is more than understandable. But again, what we do know about Ronaldo is that he did not train with United. He remained in Portugal. He trained on his own. And the last season, again, Messi did not have a proper preseason. He came back expecting to continue at Barcelona, and then things completely changed. He had to go to Paris. And for Ronaldo, this is the other way around, because he throughout the preseason he was not expecting to remain at Manchester United, because there is no way that he could have envisaged that no one out there would want someone of his profile, someone of his legacy. And that was a big reality check for him. So he had to come back to a Manchester United side, an environment which he thought he had left behind for good, without a proper preseason. And in doing so, he showed up all his cards, he lost all the leverage and gave all of it to Eric Ten Hag, who who from day one has been as diplomatic as a manager can be with a player that is overall quite disturbing for the dressing room dynamics, but would still come good because at the end of the day, there's still Cristiano Ronaldo we are talking about. But because he wasn't there from day one and he did not train with the team, he did not integrate himself in the system that Ten Hag was trying to go. So that made things very hard for Cristiano. Now, Ten Hag from day one he kept saying that okay, he's a very important player, he's a great player. If he stays around, we'll have him in the team. But it is hard for him to do that if the player is not showing up for whatever reason. So when Cristiano comes back and you are not a part of his system, he doesn't really need to provide an explanation to bench him. Once again, because this is Cristiano, we are here talking about it. He's having to answer in the press conferences why it's Cristiano he's not picking up, because it's Cristiano. It's Cristiano Ronaldo, greatest player of all time. How could he not be picked up? Well, that's not how the team squad dynamics work. It did not work for Leo Messi last season. He struggled throughout it. The only difference last season was that when he actually had the chance throughout the middle of the season to actually have a proper training regimen and get his fitness back, he did not do that, which is something that I expect Ronaldo is not going to follow up, because this isn't the first time that Ronaldo has had a struggling start to the season. This is a very worrying one, but he has had previous seasons as well in his prime years where he wouldn't start straight out the gate. He wouldn't really be very hot in red hot form, but he would gain his fitness over the season and then he'll shine when everyone watches, especially in the knockout stage of the Champions League. So in this season particularly, Ronaldo at 37, his greatest priority right now is preparing for the World Cup and make sure that he takes Portugal as far as he can, if not all the way. So to that end, I think he'll get his fitness back. I think he'll train hard. I think he will once again give Erik Ten Hag reasons to at least consider him off the bench, which is why he's still a part of the squad. But I think his priorities currently lie in the World Cup. And if he performs well at the World Cup with all the eyes on with the world's eyes on the event, I think he would very much like to move on in January, because if he performs at the World Cup at the greatest stage, maybe another Champions League club will come back in January and say, okay, now half of the season is behind us. Now we have the knockout stages waiting for us, and maybe now we can have Cristiano. And maybe he would be more open to remaining on the bench and playing only in the major matches. Now that he has realized that players are not clubs are not really that ready to give him a long-term contract and play him 60 games if he's fit. So I don't think immediately he helps. I think in Europa League, once again, he will be featuring, which is, if you are Cristiano, it's very embarrassing, but it is what it is, because you're now going to have to deal with the hand that you have dealt. But I think before the World Cup, I don't think that a lot can happen. I think his priority is to get his fitness back and train with the team as much as he can. And I think in the first 16 league games leading up to the World Cup, we're going to see very little of Ronaldo. And if he sticks around in the second season, in the second half of the season, I have no doubt that his form will come back. And because if you are integrating Cristiano Ronaldo in the starting lineup, you are going to build the squad in such a way that will feed chances to him. So he will inevitably score goals, just like he did last season and the seasons before that. So that, I think eventually his form will come good. Right now he's struggling not only with United but also with Portugal team. So his lack of fitness is really demonstrably there. So yeah, I think with some training he'll be right back in form. If not for United, then for someone else.
Shwetaabh, do you think, given the minutes Ronaldo has played this season so far, do you really see him performing not extremely well, but reasonably well for his national side?
See, there are, like Anshuman was saying this right now, and there are some things I go by when I follow football, and I've been following it for quite some time. That when this off the field things happen, there are some things there are some things you just don't know, and you can just speculate about. So why he stayed, why he wanted to go for a transfer, what conversations happened between him and United, that is pure speculation. So but one thing which we know is that Ronaldo shot himself in the foot by missing the preseason at this stage. And that is where I completely agree with Anshuman that he's not had that, like, being a professional football player, we all know how important preseasons are. Like, whole seasons have been derailed due to bad preseasons, due to players not being able to attend preseason, due to, like, the preseason not going as people would have hoped for, managers coming in between preseason. So these things derail. At the age of 37, turning 38 in February, Ronaldo, since 1st of July, if my statistics are not wrong, probably he's seen 450 minutes of football overall. That's 5 games. That's 5 games. And uh, we are almost on to the mid of the season. one third of the season is over for sure. Like, 10 games have happened, two Europa League games, international break. People have played 15 games. And here we have a player who goes so much by his physical regimen, whose game is so much dependent on his physical side of the things. And he's not had that preseason. So I think that is one of the biggest reasons why he's not firing. Because even with Portugal, okay, fine, there are so many problems with United. There's a new manager, there's a new formation, but it's the same formation with Portugal. It's the same manager, and we all saw how he performed. Like he's looking like a shadow of his old self. But yes, I also agree with Anshuman there. He's still at the top of his physical game, his training, his regiment. Now these are facts. Again, like I told you before, there are some speculation, some are facts. The fact is, there is no hard worker. There's no one who works harder than Ronaldo does on his physical side of the things. He should, if he continues in this way, he should hit top form. He should get his goal scoring touch back. He's just not physically active right now. And on top of that, he's been asked to play in a new formation. You know, so yeah, I also hope that as the World Cup comes, he reaches some kind of physical peak. You know, I don't know if he's going to stay in January or not. I don't see him being a starter yet. He could become a starter. He could become a starter because we don't have a number nine. And even at this age, if Ronaldo hits his physical peak, there's no better number nine in the world. Probably Lewandowski and Benzema, but he's in the top five for sure. So United could use him properly, but I just think that whatever these speculations are, I just hope that there is some conversation going on between United and Ronaldo as to his future, where they see him, frank conversations, whatever it is, they should get it done and dusted with. If he's staying, he stays. If he's going, he should be allowed to leave because United fans, being Ronaldo fans, we're actually feeling bad for him also. This is not how Ronaldo's career should be winding down. So yeah, let's just hope as the season progresses, Ronaldo does hit some kind of physical peak. But yes, I think he shot himself in the foot by missing the preseason at this age. We all saw what happened with Messi last year. That is not the ideal situation. I hope he gets back into his peak.
Ali, we often see that when big name players are not starting or they're not coming off the bench, they generally make the headlines, and it's probably the same in the case of Ronaldo as well. Um, but the people who really come into the limelight here are the managers. Do you feel like Ten Hag has handled the situation to the best of his abilities, and he's been as diplomatic as possible, and he's given the player enough opportunity? Are you happy with the way he's handling the situation right now?
No, I think I'm pretty content, but speculations and highlights will always be there when a player of such stature and one of the best, probably people can say he's the best player of all time. So when he is on the bench for this long, and I think this is the first time which is happening in his career after getting into the top. So these things are going to happen. This is normal. Manager will get abuses from the fans. Even the fans of Manchester United are not behind him because Ronaldo is not being played. But he has a case. Erik Ten Hag has a case of not playing him probably, and Anshuman and Shwetaabh, all of them clearly pointed out why he's not being played the preseason, the kind of fitness he's in. And I watched the match against Spain, Portugal versus Spain, and he was not able to run with the ball properly. He was not making those such kind of movements what he was doing in the last season, even at the latter stages of the last season. So it's pretty evident that lack of preseason has got better of him right now, and is not able to even come out of the bench and to do something. You know, even against Arsenal, he got one or two chances where in the full fitness he would have gone on to score the goal, but I think Gabriel tackled him from behind. He covered the spaces. He lacks that physical ability and that momentum in his game right now, which is why Ten Hag is not playing him.
Anshuman, on when we're on the number nine subject and we're talking about strikers in United, and Shweta rightly pointed out there is a striker issue in United at the moment. Do you feel that any of the strikers or the players at United can fill that spot at the moment, or do you feel like you definitely need to bring somebody in January? Uh,
Anshuman,
Anshuman, I
you're on mute.
you're, you're
Moment. Am I audible now?
yeah,
Yeah.
Anshuman.
Yeah, okay. So Martial has come back. So as long as he's fit, I think he's going to be the number one choice. Marcus Rashford was being chosen recently as the number nine, not because he's prolific in those central areas, but because he could provide the mobility. He could provide the ability to engage the centre back so as to open spaces for the wide players, so as to be able to offer the type of fitness that Cristiano, for example, currently cannot provide. And because he's someone who does not track back when operating on the wings, so that responsibility also from him was taken off when he's playing in that number nine role. So that is the reason he was playing there in preseason. Another interesting thing that I noticed what that Ten Hag was trying to do, that he was not just implementing this 4-2-3-1. Another thing that he was trying with was implementing a 4-2-2-2, in which you had the right-sided forward tucking in as a second striker and an unconventional forward in a play occupying that number nine role. And Van de Beek occupied that for a while, and Bruno Fernandes occupied that for a while. So because Ten Hag implemented that in the preseason, yeah, makes me think that okay, maybe this is something he might be wanting to go for eventually, maybe in a Europa League game that has very little stakes. So maybe we can see that. But in the long term, getting a striker is something that United needed to look for like 2 seasons before that, because even before Cristiano arrived, we had Edison Cavani. So even the argument at the time was, okay, this is a stopgap solution. We need to now invest in a long term solution for this. But that never arrived because Manchester United chucked the money at Cristiano, and that long term plan went out the window. So a lot of deadwood removal needs to be done before United can eventually go on and consider a different option, because there are some very good ones out there. If I were to throw just one name, I would say Victor Osimhen is one such player. I would say Christopher Nkunku would come quite good for United, but apparently is already quite close to agreeing a deal with Chelsea, so that is already off the market. But yeah, those are the profiles. That is the age bracket under 25, which is something that United should be looking at in the long run at the very least. And what we see in Martial is that Ten Hag wants a number nine that can engage the centre backs, that who doesn't really need to provide a lot of input when creating the chances, but who can hold the ball up front, allow the remainder of the team to come into the four to occupy comfortable spaces in the final third, so as to create patterns of play that can then be exploited by said number nine. So Martial does offer all of that. And the kind of mobility he offers, the kind of inclination he has to drift into the wide areas as well. And when that can be complemented with someone like Marcus Rashford or Jadon Sancho, who is much better on the wings on either side compared to Rashford because he also tracks back. So you have that. So that those we know that this is something that Ten Hag is actively looking for. But again, this is a different. This ends up becoming a different discussion regarding player acquisition and what United can do, if at all, next season. So, which is something that we will have to arrive on at a later time. But right now, I think as long as Martial is fit, he becomes the number one choice. Cristiano, we'll see what happens at the World Cup, whether he sticks around after the World Cup, and if he gains that form back, I think Ten Hag will have no issues reintegrating him into the setup as well. And if he's firing, and if United are able to create chances for him better than they were able to do that last season, then I think it will be better for the team only.
Uh, Anshuman, you pointed out that in the long run, you're probably looking for uh, a more solid and long-term option for the number nine spot, somebody like an Nkunku or an Osimhen, both of whom will cost United a bomb at the moment. But if you're looking for a quick fix, somebody you can quickly bring in during the January transfer window, and you're looking for somebody within the Premier League, for example, from um, probably say a 6 to 20 place team, who would that person be for you? If there is some quick fix that you need, you have somebody within the Premier League you've seen for a while, and you know what, he's going to bang me a few goals and probably solve this problem for a bit.
If I were to come up with a rapid fire answer, I'd say Ivan Tony, mostly because I really like his temperament. And in that way, he's quite a lot like Jamie Vardy insofar as he's arrived at the Premier League at quite a later stage. He arrived at 25, Vardy arrived at 27. Both of them have the kind of temperament that allows them to back themselves up in big games. Because this is a player who 3 years ago was playing in League One. So he's someone who was a part of the Newcastle United setup was let go because he was deemed not good enough. So on the basis of not only his ability but his confidence, he has brought himself back into the big time. So that is the kind of temperament that United could really enjoy. That is the kind of profile that Ten Hag would relish, and the kind of things that he offers up front. He's not terrible on the ball. He's one of the best penalty takers there are. Aerially, he's very adept despite being only 5'10" tall. So there are a lot of qualities there that Ten Hag likes in a number nine. So I don't really see that being a short term solution, but because this is the only name that came to my mind. As far as short term solutions are concerned, United were actually looking for Marco Arnautovic and were made a lot of fun for that, rightfully so, because United have been going for short term solutions ever since Radamel Falcao arrived in 2014. So that is quite embarrassing, but that is the indictment of the United recruitment system that we're talking about. So again, Tony is someone that again in mid short to mid term could be an answer for United. Whether it will happen or not is very unlikely given in this moment. But yeah, you never really know what the future holds.
Shweta, would you mind somebody like an Ivan Tony coming in as a short term to mid term fix, as Anshuman pointed out, or do you
See,
want the money to go in for a bigger player?
no. See, I think first of all we should see where we are in January. If we see that the season is gone, there is not much hope. Then I don't see any point in splashing the cash. But if you see that no, there is some chance of at least finishing in the top two or going on a run in the FA Cup or the Europa League, then maybe cash could be splashed. But more than that, I still feel that there is still some time in January, and Ten Hag still has say October, November, December, 4 months to work with the players that he has. So I would say, I mean, I know that this could sound like another punt or a risk that why we are doing it, but I'm saying that this is something that we saw Ferguson doing a lot. You've got Garnacho in your squad. You know, you've got Elanga in your squad. You've got young players in your squad. Uh, just try to groom them for this kind of a position for till at least the season. And I'm not saying that these can suddenly become the future of United, who are going to fight for titles from next year itself. But till next year, let's not, because this is the problem that we guys have been doing since the past 10 years, right? Quick fixes, quick solutions. I think it's high time you drop that habit. And with a manager like Erik Ten Hag, we've seen that he makes the most out of the resources he has. We all saw what he did with Sebastian Haller last season. Just last season, he turned Haller into the most prolific Champions League scorer, of the previous season. Then I'm sure that with the kind of players that he has, with the kind of man manager he is, the kind of tactician that he is, he can make the best out of the resources he has. And I think it is exciting times for United in terms of the young personnel that they have. They have a player like Shwetaabh in the reserves, They've got Garnacho. They've got Elanga, just three players to name. And there is so much potential to be unlocked of Rashford, Martial. So I'm saying that players are there. The players are there. Let's not just jump into the next big thing in January. And again, Ronaldo, coming back to Ronaldo itself, I think it's imperative to play him in the Europa League this week. Keep playing him in games where you can play him. Give him that match sharpness. Let us see if he can find that spark back. With every problem, like this is what you're talking about the players, right? On the field, that the players that they're there. First sign of a problem, first sign of a distress, and they leave the fight. They start looking for different solutions, the quick fix. ये कर लेते हैं वो कर लेते हैं तो similarly the boardroom, we are already blaming the boardroom for that. Why are you going for the quick fixes? Why are you not following the process? Let's make a process. Now you've hired a manager, give him some time. You know why you hired this manager. Like I think Darren Fletcher and the director of football, they all came and they said this, that in the interview they were impressed with the vision that he had for United. They never said, oh, this guy promised us that he's going to win the first 10 matches and he's going to give us the league in the first year. They never said it. They said we are going to back his vision. He's told us a vision. He's good with the young players. Give him the young players. Don't force the don't go up to him and tell him sign Osimhen, sign Nkuku, sign some expensive player and just get him here and quickly just win the next game, because it is high time we realize it's not about the next game. Let's start thinking about the next 2-3 years now. And in the next 2-3 years, if you invest in players like Garnacho, it's not just been the class of 92 which has been successful for United. there have been a lot of classes. For one thing, Ferguson was always known for, which a Klopp, a Guardiola, no top manager has ever done it since. It was only Wenger and Ferguson who did it to a point. They kept making teams, you know, they kept making great teams one after the other, and there was a process involved in that. So you have to give this guy a process. So I think I am just not in favor of any quick fixes. You give me Tony, you give me Osimhen, you give me Nkuku, nothing is going to happen. United is still going to be the same. There is no guarantee Tony comes in and suddenly starts. How do you know that Tony is going to fall into Ten Hag's system? Just because he's scoring goals for the other team doesn't mean that he's going to score goals for United. So I think it's very important. Just let him follow the process. Let him work with the youngsters. If Ronaldo doesn't work out, if Rashford doesn't work out, if Marshall doesn't work out, get Garnacho in. Get a player like Shwetaabh in. Give him the chances. So that is what I would go for personally, because I'm sick and tired of watching these quick fixes coming and nothing happening. I would much rather enjoy seeing the process. Okay, we finished seventh in the table, we finished eighth in the table, but there was a reason why it happened. We are seeing it with Mikel Arteta this season. 3 seasons of nothing, 3 seasons of nothing, and suddenly this guy's at the top of the league, having won 6 out of the 7 matches. This is what happens when you give process the time. We saw what happened with Klopp, so we need to give the same time to Ten Hag.
Yeah, 7 out of 8. Just because I'm an Arsenal fan, I just wanted to that in. So yeah.
Actually,
Anyways,
yeah.
yeah. Ali, I just wanted to ask you: are you also about this? About following the process, giving young players the opportunity? I mean, getting the best out of what your squad has to offer, or do you want to see somebody come in January?
I think we would, if Ronaldo leaves particularly, and or if he's not able to perform and get into the matches, we will need a striker. We don't have a striker a player good enough in the academy who can play as a striker right now. I think Premier League is much different. You can see probably at Arsenal also, you can see how Eddie Nketiah has done it the way he did in the academy, and those two players are completely different because of the level and the physicality and the kind of opponents we have in the league. Charlie McNeil is the striker at our academy, and he is physically not good enough to come into this side and give like 6 or 7 matches into the season yet. So the process, we will have to buy a striker evidently, and that striker could be a quick fix, but that quick fix shouldn't be what I feel is a 30 plus years old striker. A striker who can give 3 or 5 years for us in the next seasons. So Ivan Tony is the best option right now. And other name which I'm having since even before the start of the transfer window was Raul de Tomas of Espanyol, previous Real Madrid striker, and the way he has become right now is a very very good player. I think his contract was running out in next year, and he's isn't playing in the Segunda division for Espanyol. He signed with Rayo Vallecano for just 5 million. The United should have gone for him. Even if he wasn't our number one striker, he would have been a very very good squad player for us, and he has all those qualities to be good enough to play in the top division. I saw him in La Liga last year, and I used to watch Spaniol's matches just because of him. So he was a name, but he's gone to Vallecano right now. So apart from Ivan Tony, I don't have any other name who can come in January. We have to go for a striker. The process, I love the process the way Bayern do it. Right now they have signed Matthias Tell from Reims for I think 15 17 million, 25 million I think, and he hasn't played a full match in Liga last season. And this side him, they are slowly building him into the squad, and he's providing for them. He's just 17 years old, and our recruiters, they are so bad. They never go for this kind of prospects who can come up and do something great. So let's
No,
see.
and even when
Yeah,
they come through a prospect like this, United has been losing out on such prospects for the past 3-4 years, and I'm sure these young players are also seeing this, that they're not going to get. We lost Bellingham, we lost Haaland. Like Haaland has been, maybe he would have never
we
come
lost
because of his,
Haaland for a different issue. The issue
for
was
whatever
with the
reason. No, I'm saying for whatever the reason was. That's what I was saying. Maybe he would have not come because of his father's connection with City, and maybe he would have never come anyway. But like the recruiting process was anyway flawed. Even if there was a chance that Haaland could have come, whatever the reason, you go for a player like Haaland is basically what I'm trying to say. You go for a player like Bellingham. You break all doors down, you break all barriers. This is what United was known for when their recruitment in their heydays. You got Ronaldo. You got Ronaldo at 18-year-old and put him straight into the first team. You spent the money that was required to spend. You acted fast on it, but you've been losing out on young players. Like you see Jamal Musiala went to Bayern, and he at the age of 18, 19, he's playing for them. Why is it that United only doesn't have an 18, 19 after Rashford? And Rashford is like once in the past 10, 15 years, you've only had one Rashford, you know, and Marshall, the jury is still out. But besides that, you don't see those kind of young players coming in and creating an impact like they used to do earlier. And maybe it is just a Premier League thing, because I don't know, I don't see any other club also in Premier League doing as much with young players. There must be, like Foden did come, Harvey Elliott is still there, but you still see that Premier League, because of the money, has become more about recruiting established players and things like that. But like that is where I think when Ali made Bayern's took Bayern's example, and Dortmund, we all know what they've been doing. I think that is where United is really lacking, because quick fix वही बात आ जाती है फिर से कि आप quick fix पे जा रहे हो. अगर आप एक process follow करोगे तो आप इन youngsters को लाके you can just incorporate them in the team, and that is
we,
something that you would
we
want to see as a fan.
we actually just can't just incorporate that into the team. Our system, our process, our infrastructure is all over the places in the
That
past
is what
like
I'm
past
saying.
9 years.
Exactly,
That's
that is what
that's
I'm
that
saying.
is the reason. In Martial there is a very there is absolutely a world class talent. There was, and
Yeah, yeah,
the team ruined it, our club ruined him, just because you cannot develop a young player when you are playing with two or three managers in a season, and the manager doesn't
yeah,
a new
yeah.
manager doesn't know if he's there next week or next month or not. And the way they've been going about managers bringing them in, there has been no set rules or a vision. So this is the first time they've got a manager probably with a vision, with something, and they've given him a lot more authority on the club. So I still have high hopes from Martial if he's fit. I think he's going to deliver. He's still good enough. He has the talent, and as he told in those interviews that he wasn't fit and he was still being played by Solskjaer, and that's more than harsh on any player. So now when he's completely fit, and I'm seeing him with a different, very much different attitude. I can see him going onto the pitch with the desire to show that I'm someone, and I'm capable of being at Manchester United. So if he's fit, I think he can be our number 9 for this, at least for this season. And he is good enough. He just has to be fit.
Yep. Well, I really hope that United are able to sort their number nine situation out for the rest of the season at least. But quickly before we wrap up, guys, United play Everton in their next Premier League game. I've just moved on from the Europa League game. I hope United get done in that game. But yeah, quickly, Anshuman, do you think this was just a blip, a one-off against Manchester City? United, like Shweta pointed out, had some momentum before the break, the big break. And do you think United will bounce back against Everton at Goodison?
I mean, if you are going to judge it by results, then it could swing either way, because we went into this long break for United, watching United winning match after match. But from a performance point of view, this was not drastically too different. This defeat, the City defeat, wasn't drastically too different from the performance we had at Arsenal. But just because that was a win and this is a defeat, so we'll completely go into the other extremes, which, from an analytical point of view, isn't exactly objective and does not tell the full story. But it is what it is. So Everton is going to be challenging, because at Goodison our record is not very good anyway. And Frank Lampard right now boasts a very strong defense. Everton's defense right now is the strongest in both Conor Cody and James Tarkowski. He has very sound defenders, so that centre back pairing is going to be very tricky for them. Interestingly, this is a setup. The current Everton setup that United are going to face is going to be the one that is going to demand Ten Hag to do things, which is going to demand Manchester United to play and actually see if they can break down Everton's press. So in that regard, this is going to be a different setting, because United don't really need to be pragmatic. I don't think they can afford to be pragmatic in this game, like they have against Liverpool and Arsenal and succeeded, like they tried against City and did not succeed. I think they will have to be proactive in this game, and I hope that they do. And I would like to see how that pans out, because we haven't really seen United perform well while doing that, because they tried that haphazardly against Brentford and Brighton and got beaten 6-1 on aggregate. So there's a good chance that this is a match that can end up in a very frustrating draw, either in a nil-nil or 1-1. But a result is not something that I'm quite bothered with right now, which is why even 6-3 defeat left me more or less nonplussed, because I'm looking for the performances. Before the start of the season, I had made my piece that United could end up outside the top eight for all I cared, as long as Ten Hag explored enough, understood the system, was able to establish a core of players in the dressing room that he could trust going forward. So that is my priority. So let's see if we see more of the same. If see the continuation of something along those lines against Everton. And if United are able to play the kind of proactive football that they demonstrated during pre-season, I think Everton's very recent streak of good performances may come to an end as well.
Shweta, priority for you, performance or result?
No, I completely agree with Anshuman that it is not the result. United could win 1-0, you know, and it could be a shitty performance for all we care. But the thing is, right now, process is very important. That is why it is very exciting for me. Because, see, when you asked Anshuman this question, my answer to that is that I think it was a blip. Blip not in terms of performance. Performance has been very shaky. But, when United were performing well, we all were discussing, the exciting thing is that fight is back. You see Diego Dallo committing into every tackle, getting up, high fives are going on, people are pumping each other up. And it just went missing. That is what I'm talking about. That character going in this game was a blip. I see that character coming back because we have understood that Ten Hag has the cojones. He has that demanding nature. He is going to get some demands out. The second thing is, we have seen this manager not being afraid to make big changes. I was very happy for McTominay. He was performing very well. I don't see him playing against Everton now though, because each defeat like this makes it exciting in the sense that now we'll see what Ten Hag does. I see Casemiro coming into the team now. You can't leave a player like Casemiro out on the bench, no matter, even if McTominay plays at a level beyond his ability. Even then, he doesn't match up to Casemiro. You're just delaying the inevitable. Put Casemiro into your team, get your best 11 on the pitch, whatever it is, play them according to how you want to play them, ask them to follow your tactics, your formations, and I think we are going to see some reaction from United for sure. More than United, I think we're going to see a reaction from Ten Hag. I see that character coming back. I see that team, at least that uh, the kind of the way they were performing before the international break. I see that character, that ability, that fight coming back. The performance will follow.
Awesome. Ali, could you throw in a scoreline for me, United Everton?
No score lines,
No
no
scoreline.
predictions from my side. But this is a game which I expect we are. This is the game for Erik Ten Hag. We had Brighton first game, then Brentford. Those are the game. Those are opposition who would come up against us. Even Palace, Southampton are a team who go with front foot and they press. And against Everton, if the team starts with a good position and breaking those lines and getting into the final third quite often, they are gonna drop down. They are gonna play low block and sit deep. So this is a game where Erik Ten Hag will have the chance to implement what he wants to implement at this United team. So this would be a sort of match where I will be closing a keep watch on the kind of performance in the small things, how the players are playing, rather than just focusing on the result. So this is a developing stage, this kind of match. So I expect them to win, and maybe we will just win by a one goal or two goal margin. But the performance and the kind of performance and the brand of play has to change, and I believe we will see that in this match.
I really hope so too. I'm sure all our eyes will be on United as they play the midweek game in the Europa League, and they take on Everton this weekend. So yeah, thanks guys for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in to Blood, Sweat and Beers. We hope to see you next time. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Rahul.
you.